Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 25 of UnCoMfY CoNvOs. This is your boy Shiv, your guy, your dude, your man, your boy, your man boy, whatever you want to call me. And today we're going to talk about perseverance anxiety. That's right. You heard me right. You know, you get down, you got to get back up. You know, that's life. You know, it's just what it is. What it is. And today, as a guest, we have someone who knows more than a thing or two on perseverance. He is currently a punter for Syracuse University. He's a fellow East Greenwich High School alum, was a 12-season student athlete at the high school. Could you do that? Maybe you could, because I'll listen. You know, you guys are strong. He's a cancer survivor. And he also has a podcast out now called Power Through with Nolan Cooney on Apple Podcasts. So without further introduction, thank you so much for being on, Nolan Cooney.
Shiv, quite an intro. It's not, you made me sound a lot better than I am, but hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. So just to start off, I wanted to bring us back to Little League Baseball. So we were both playing Little League Baseball. Our team that year, we were the Mariners. We were undefeated, I think. And we were entering the playoffs. I think it was the playoffs. And you were on the Red Sox. We hadn't lost a game, pretty dominant team. I was confident in us winning the championship. And that day, we came to find out that you were the pitcher, but we'd never faced you before. Now, we ended up losing that game 1-0. And we couldn't hit off of you. So, just to start off, I just wanted to pitch you the question. Why'd you do it? Why'd you have to do it?
So when I was thinking about what we were going to chat here, it was the first thing that came to my mind was the minors Little League semifinals. Yeah. And you guys were stacked. You had far and away the best players for, how old were we at that point? Fourth grade, third grade, whatever it may be. And it came down to the most unlikely hero in the game of a miscue by you guys. And it felt like a David Goliath win for the Red Sox of the East Greenwich Miners Little League team.
Yeah. And we were stunned. I was stunned. I was like, oh, and I couldn't even hit. I remember facing you, like when I got into because I could hit that year, like against all the pitch. I tried to go to majors. I didn't get in, but I was like, so I was in minors, but I could hit off of most people. So when I got up, I would swing, like the baseball would hit the catcher's mitt. And that's when I started swinging. Like you were throwing so fast.
It was probably 48 miles an hour at that point. And it may have felt like 70 coming in from anybody else, but I was probably the biggest guy out there. Yeah. And that game will forever live in my mind. I've been able to play so many different sports games, and for whatever reason, that game still talk about it with my friends all the time. Whoever played in that game, you had other guys that I'm still friends with on your team, and I will remember it forever.
Yeah. I wondered if you would have remembered it. I'm like, if I pitch this, will you have remembered it? And you do.
And you were the best player in the league. I remember it. And you were unlikely hero that came in that year. I don't think I didn't know who you were. And then there were some guys that said, this guy Shiv is a stud. And we came into the game. I was like, damn, man, I don't know what I'm going to do when I come up to face. I probably walked to you. I probably hit the backstop. Who knows?
No, you struck me out. I remember it like it was it still keeps me up. I couldn't sleep last night. I'm like, I'm doing a podcast with Nolan, and I just remember him striking me out in that game. I remember I got struck out. I couldn't, and I knew it was a big moment because I'm like, okay, I was a good hitter that year. And I was like, oh, like, no one's throwing heat. Nobody can hit off of him. I got to step up. And I think it was like 3 pitches. I think you got it was just 3 or 4 straight, just like 3 strikes. And I just couldn't even, I was like, and then I had to wait. Once you strike out, you have to wait for 4. And we had 6 innings in Little League. I'll probably get one more shot.
And And with the rules, you probably had 14 guys batting, even though there's only 9 playing in the field.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up, just to talk about it, because never, really talked about it. But I'm glad you remember it. That makes me happy, because at least it was a big moment for you.
It's like when they have on NFL Network, they'll bring in the 2 Super Bowl quarterbacks years later after, let's say they'll bring in Brady versus Eli Manning, right? One of the biggest games of all time, and they'll have them come on NFL Network and say, Tom, what happened here? Eli, what happened here? It's kind of what it feels like with that game in my memory.
Yeah. Like the Giants versus the Patriots.
But yet it's the smallest little league game, but it'll forever resonate in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, you knocked us off, and honestly, I was impressed, and it was just, I remember our team just like being like, what we were just like, what just happened? Like, what that was, and it was the pitching. It was like the incredible pitching. But I do want to ask, like, just in general, growing up, sports like seemed to, they were a big part of your life, big part of my life. As a kid, what did you like the most about sports?
So for me, I don't know exactly if I could pinpoint what I liked the most. I didn't have video games. I never got into them. The only
Mm-hmm.
TV I watched was Sports Center, and I had played basketball, just go outside and just go shoot hoops or throw the ball against the garage. I just found tons of enjoyment in it. And it didn't matter what sport I was playing. I was happy with whatever it may be. And I continued to do that throughout my whole life. And then you develop all your friendships through there. Every single friend that I have, I've developed through sports, whether it was soccer, basketball, baseball, now football. And it's the people you go through. I don't know if you find the same thing, but when you go from season to season, it's who your friends are. So in soccer season or in football season, those are your buddies that you hang with for 2 or 3 months. And then when basketball rolls around in the winter, you got a new group of friends. And then in spring, it's totally different. And then you got your summer friends. And I really kind of like that there was different people that I was hanging out with all the time. And I think it allowed me to find the most enjoyment in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really insightful that like you said, there's different groups across the different sports because people are drawn to different ones. And to that point, though, I find it very impressive that you were able to play a lot of different sports, like 12 season, athlete in high school. And I'm wondering, like, what was that like? Like the mindset behind being able to play like all sports versus just one.
I don't think I would know anything else, to tell you the truth. For
Yeah.
you played a couple different sports and then, find your focus in tennis. But for me, it's what I thought was right. I didn't think that, specializing in one sport that a lot of people want to do was what I was looking for. In
Yeah.
all the other sports, I loved playing all different ones for whatever reason it may be. And then, you know, of course it ends up that I play 3 sports in high school that I love. And I thought I was going to play baseball, frankly, was probably my favorite at the time in high school. And then all of a sudden end up being a kicker in college. It doesn't make sense. And then it won't make sense to anybody, but I guess that's how it
Right.
works out.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. So baseball was like your biggest love.
I was all in. Still am. I'll watch 2 games a day if it's on TV, and hopefully it's on soon. But I'm totally locked in. I love it. A lot of my best friends are from playing baseball, and I still idolize baseball players as much as anybody. And thought I was going to play. I was okay, right? Maybe probably could have played Division III somewhere, whatever it may have been. And then,
Yeah.
all of a sudden football shows up and let's roll with that.
Yeah. Yeah. In that transition, right, to football, like what gave you because you didn't play as much in high school, correct?
Yeah, never played football in high school.
And then what gave you the confidence and the faith to like jump into football? Like you were like, okay, let me give this a shot.
So I had gone to I used to just mess around, just playing catch with my dad, and we'd kick the foot. I was end up kicking the ball half the time, and go down to a field and punt the ball. I thought it was cool. I always thought it was cool when you go to or watch a Patriots game or go to a game and you see the kickers warming up. I thought it was fascinating how to watch them kick the ball and just launch it. So I was like, you know what, that's cool. So ended up going to a camp at one point in high school, and it went well. And there was a little bit of interest from some schools, and I was like, you know what, maybe there's a future. And then with what's going on with me as well, I had missed my junior or a lot of my junior year of high school. So I said,
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm ready for college at this point. So I ended up going to prep school, which was a great decision. And I said, I don't know if I see a huge future in these other sports. I enjoy them, but I don't know if I can play at a really high level. And then football was there. So I said, let's roll with it. I like it. I'm going to enjoy it. And then I ended up, you know, coming to Syracuse and walking on the team here.
Yeah. That's really incredible, like the story of that, because so you said you like with your dad, like you would just like mess around, you'd kick, and then
Yeah.
you showed up at a
Just in the
camp.
backyard. Just in the
Yeah.
backyard, signed up for a camp that he had found. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And from there, it was just going with it. And it was kind of what I do anyway. I try not to take it too seriously until now, when I do take it seriously, of course.
Yeah. 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 And then what was the decision like to do like the 1 year of prep like at Bridgeton
Yeah,
Bridgeton Academy?
Bridgeton. It's a small school in Maine. It's really in the middle of nowhere. And I decided to do that as I was looking to apply for college. I never looked at a college in high school. So many people are so involved with the search process and visiting 1,000 different schools, applying. I applied to 3 schools probably in high school, and I don't even know if I did the proper protocol to even get an admission from them. If I probably, I don't know if I got in. I got into maybe 2 schools, and I said I wasn't ready to go to college. I didn't feel like I was prepared. I wasn't a great student to begin with. Not to say that I didn't work hard, but I didn't really figure it out until probably my junior year, how to develop study habits, how to,
Mhm.
whatever it may have been. It happens for a lot of people that you hit that maturity at different ages. And for me, it was probably around that junior year time. And Bridgeton, there were some guys from East Greenwich that had gone there in the past, and they
Yeah.
said they had good experiences there. And I thought that visiting there it was good. There's some beautiful prep schools out there that have, immaculate endowments of $1 billion, but that I didn't feel like that was me, and they didn't have the spot for me. So Bridgeton ended up working out great because it's all postgraduate students. It's all guys, all postgraduates with similar idea of what they want to do in the future. They want to play sports, and they want to play in college, but some of them, whatever it may be, there's all different situations of why guys go there. And I decided to
Mhm.
go there for really to grow and to get more experience and to play football, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think that requires a lot of courage to be able to go, because it's probably not the conventional route of everyone around, in terms of peers. But you did mention some people from the high school had gone there.
Yeah, I think it was what I thought was right at the time. And I
Yeah.
would absolutely tell anybody that it was the right move for me. And I think that there's a lot of people who can benefit from that too. I think there's a lot of guys in high school that have, frankly, a lot of immaturity, to tell you the truth. And it takes time
Right.
to develop. And a lot of guys don't hit that until, junior, senior year of high school, except the expectation is you've had all this time to develop in high school and you're going to be ready for college. But that I would say it was maybe a little bit of courage to make the decision, because you see your friends having fun at college. They're going out, doing their thing, whatever it might be. Some are playing sports, and you're, sitting in a dorm in the middle of nowhere in Maine and it's negative 15 degrees outside and you got to slug up a hill and you're saying to yourself, sometimes you say to yourself, is this the right decision? But it absolutely was the right decision.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome that you also like see it as that too, you know, like even maybe you're running up that hill, you know, in
Brutal.
the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you're falling down the whole time. There's only two buildings where there's classrooms there, and one of them you got to lug up this hill, and you learn the proper technique for going up in the ice at that point because everything is frozen.
Yeah.
and and then you see some friends who are going to school in Florida or something like that, let's say that, and they're at the beach in March having the time of their life.
Spring break, you see like
Yeah.
people like
Yeah.
posting.
And then for me, spring break is, going home for a week and working probably, and everybody else is having fun.
Yeah. That requires a lot of focus and discipline though. So it's
I think so.
nice in a way.
I think so. And it's a great transition to college. I know I'm probably going on a tangent about this, and there's no
Yeah.
comedy involved, but
There
it's
is.
it's probably comedy involved with what you do to stay busy. It's the same thing that you do when you're at home right now during this quarantine anyway. It's
Yeah.
YouTube and television, refreshing social media as much as you can, hoping that you see something interesting to spark your mind and send it to people.
Very true. Couldn't have hit it better.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that makes sense that like you have that transition, and it requires a lot of like mental strength just to be able to to focus in those moments where if you see other people like on social media or whatever, like doing other things, and you can still stay focused on your task, like that's really impressive. And I think like even from your story, from what I know about your story, like in high school you mentioned junior year like having like you had to take a break once when you were diagnosed with testicular cancer, like and that whole journey like of like even in those moments of like okay, you see maybe other people playing sports or like your teammates and all that, and having to, one of the things I read about is like you focused on the positive, like you were like okay, let me focus on getting back. And so
That was my
yeah.
whole goal. That was my
Yeah.
whole goal, is to say, hey, everyone gets dealt a bad hand at some point in your life, whatever it might be, right? I think it's fair to say that most people at some point have something hit them that probably sucks. And for
Yeah.
me, it happened to be cancer. And my goal was to say, I got 4 months. Let me deal with it. It'll be kind of shitty, but that's okay. And I think it's really kind of been how I live today. I try not to get too high or too low about anything.
Hmm.
There's times where things get really exciting, but you try and keep it neutral in the sense that, it might not be as good as you think. And I like to relate it to, so when you watch film in football,
Hmm.
and there are times that I'll say, you know what? I know that I went out there and I nuked that football. I'm going to watch on the practice film. We're going to watch it in the team meeting. And I'm going to say, I know that I crushed that ball and it was great. And then you watch and you're like, damn, that was not nearly as good as I thought it was. And then there'll be other times where you'll say, I shanked that thing. That thing went straight out of bounds. It was garbage. I'm going to get reamed. And you watch it and you're like, you know what? Not as bad as I thought it was. And it's kind of the same. And it's kind of that same mentality that if you keep it neutral, I think that you'll be in an okay spot.
Yeah. That's a really strong point, because like managing those emotions of the highs and the lows is, do you feel like that came, you learn that more from the experience of beating cancer and going through that process? So you're like, maybe that taught like how to manage emotions, or do you think you just had that innately growing up?
I think it was during that treatment of cancer that you realize that perspective of life, right? You can say, hey, I failed that test. Who cares? Right? In the end, it doesn't really matter. If you fail one test, who cares? There's plenty of worse things out there. Or, sometimes there's great opportunities and you strike it, right? But maybe there's something else that comes with it. And I think for me, having cancer made me realize, there are going to be some days where it sucks. There are days when you're going to text people, they're going to say, how are you doing? And you're going to text them back, I'm doing well, I'm doing fine. But really you're laying in bed, feeling like crap. Or
Right.
there's days where you say, I'm doing okay. But during having that experience allowed me to recognize so much more that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that, like, especially, sending the message of like, oh, like, I'm good, but then
Hmm.
on the inside it's like, okay, I'm not feeling the best, but you don't want, sometimes you don't want to show that to people because you don't want them to get down,
Hmm.
from
I think that's
that
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 positivity
must,
that comes with it.
yeah. And that's probably like part of the mindset of like focusing on positive versus, you know because even if you are like feeling, if you're feeling like you're in a rut or it's tough, like being able to express to people like, oh, like, yeah, maybe this is tough, but I'm looking forward to this, and I found it very impressive that you were, at least in what I read, like you focused on being able to get back, so like your mental strength to basically focus on in those moments of like pain, right? That you just basically said, like, when you're in the bed or whatever, you feel weak. It's like you're able to shift your mental energy into, okay, I'm looking forward to getting back on the court. Um,
That's it. You hit it right on the head. There was, I set, I wouldn't say I set a goal, but I had an expectation for myself that when I was done, I don't want to have this lull period where I'm getting better. I want to be able to just go for it. And it was the mindset I had. I probably showed up and I probably wasn't that good when I went out there to go play, frankly. But I said this is the only way for me to feel really bring me some happiness at the time. I felt that sports were that. And it's really what I kind of like to talk about now is the value that sports bring to my life. It's what I play. It's what I want to do for my job in the future. And it's
mhm.
what really got me through maybe the toughest part of my life. Who knows if it will be.
Yeah, yeah, and that makes sense. Also, like, well, a week after you had your final treatment, um, you played, right, basketball. You like played in the playoffs.
Yeah, probably wasn't that good. But I don't think I was out there and I didn't. The thing for me is I don't want to go out there and be some sympathy card where I'm going to go out and they're going to put me in so, everyone can clap and, I can get some acknowledgement for it. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to go out there. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it to the right, for the right reason. And it
Yeah,
was to play basketball. We were for a small high school and it was important for anybody at East Greenwich sports, right? It was, you go
yeah,
for the highest accolades you can get, and that's winning the most games. And so when I went out, I was like, I want to be able to make a contribution. I'm not going to go out there to say, hey, go Nolan, I can't believe you did it. That's all wishy-washy for me. That's not what I want. I want to
right,
say, oh, a nice defensive stand that you had out there. That's a lot more
right,
appealing to me.
right. You want it to be based on merit, like, just like, okay, this is the quality. Like, I'm doing,
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
totally, totally. And for me, it says I don't want that. Let me think about it like this. So I don't want people to say like we talk about in social media. People say, oh, you got all these likes and this comment on some post. That's not what it's about. It's saying, you know, eh, for me, so if I put something out, I put some stuff out during that time to say like, hey, I'm done with chemo. I thought for me it was a way of saying creating some encouragement for people, not to say, oh, hey, I got this many likes on some post, right? That's
Right,
garbage to
right,
me.
right.
That's garbage.
Yeah,
I'll say, hey, there's some positivity for you, for other people. Hey, maybe you're going through a tough time. This is what you can focus on. There's gonna be better times in your life that you say, that tough time, maybe that was something that hardened me to get to be better.
yeah. And I think there's a lot of strength in being able to share things like that, because when you're open, you're being vulnerable with people, but like you said, like your intent behind sharing that is like, I want to empower. I want to like show people that, like, if you're going, like you said, if you're going through a rough time, you can overcome it. And that's what, your story does for me, and I'm sure a lot of people. It's like it inspires you to be like, okay, if you're in a rut, like, you can get out of it.
It goes with the name of this podcast. So you think UnCoMfY CoNvOs. And you're getting people to talk about all different types of things that can make people uncomfortable. And with testicular cancer, it is an uncomfortable thing, right? You're talking about an area that a lot of people don't feel comfortable about being, having one of
Right.
your testicles removed. But for me, it took time. It took time for me to say, hey, you know, I'm okay talking about that it doesn't matter what that was. It's better than the alternative, right? And
Yeah.
it does take time, and that you do have to be vulnerable to speaking it out. And when I talk to other people that go through similar situations, some people have a really difficult time talking about a tough experience. But for me, it wasn't difficult to do that. It just took time to say it's okay to talk about it. No one really cares what people think about you.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's so powerful. Like, to like think about it, and it could make you, like you're saying, like, it's uncomfortable maybe to like say, or to, at first you're like, okay, maybe this is tough to say, but then once you realize like the bigger picture of, oh, like this could help people, and this is life too, like the
Hmm.
uncomfortable, like life is uncomfortable, and you have uncomfortable situations, and sharing those, I think, is uh even better sometimes, and a lot of the time, because it's like, this is what's actually going on.
There's so many things that people want to hold in. And for me, it's what I wanted to. I didn't really want to talk about it. It was like I was thinking about, let's say I was playing a sport and somebody was trash talking me and they made a joke about it, right? Because people will, they'll bring up anything. Let's say they made a joke about having testicular cancer. And I used to think, oh, you know what? That would make me so mad. That would make me so mad if somebody said that. And then I was like, that's so stupid. Why would I care what people would say to me at that point, right? They could, because it's really an uncomfortable thing to say, you know, testicular cancer, right? It's people are uncomfortable. If you said, "Oh, I had, some other type of cancer," but the being a testicle, it's really a lot of people don't want to talk
Right.
about that. But for me, I got no problem
Right.
with it. I got no problem.
Yeah. That's such a, yeah, that makes, and that reminds me of when you, even in stand up or whatever it is, like when you talk about something. I talked about this with another comedian, but when you talk about something and you own it, like even you saying like, I had testicular cancer, but you say it like, with your presence, like you're fully, your posture, like you're not like, going in or saying it as if it's like not, like you own it, and when you say it like that, like that makes everyone comfortable too. So it's like being so comfortable with what has happened too, it helps, and you can communicate it probably better.
Well, you talk about it well, right? You talk about heritage and upbringing, and you have no problem talking about it. It makes it it grants that comfortability and really makes people enjoy your own stand up better, right? When you can say,
Right.
I have no problem if people have this stereotype about me or whatever it might be. For you, that's going to make people laugh and you have no problem what they think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. So there's definitely a lot of power in sharing our stories, I think, and being honest. And obviously, we all don't have to share everything, but it's I definitely think there's a lot of power especially thinking it through and you're like, all right, I'm going to share this because I think this can help, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, to your point too, like, I think when you come at it with that intention, like, even if, you know, you sharing your story, you know, of going through beating the treatments, you know, or the treatments helping you and you beating cancer, like that whole story, it's like, okay, this can help people. And then like, once that's out there, and if people like react to it, people can react however they want. But because you knew your intention was like strong, it's like nothing is going to affect my mind because I know where I was coming from in showing people or sharing this, you know?
For you and I both, right? So I have, you know, for me, it's telling people about my story. Maybe it's helping out. Let's say somebody has a question about if they're, you know, maybe they're feeling down, or they might have a question if they are sick at some point. Or for you, it's delivering that comedic relief. It's just a different delivery, but it's
Yeah.
still creating that same message of, I want to be able to provide something for somebody.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it comes from that place completely, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, that I find that's very even more impressive about what, like, I know from your story too, is like, you know, it didn't end there. So you know, you beat cancer and you got back out on the basketball court, you know, kept playing sports like through junior, senior year of high school. And then, as you mentioned earlier, you continued the journey. You're like, I'm going to keep playing football. You went to the prep school, and then you said you walked on to Syracuse. So I'm sure like even that required a lot of, you know, like perseverance. I know perseverance is our, you know, the topic for today. And, but, you know, probably required a lot of like you continuing to be able to push through, and you know, you beat the cancer, but then all of these other things like that, you keep going, you know?
Yeah. What I did was, it was sending out emails and, you know, DMing players or coaches, whatever it might be. I was like, let's go with it. I think that I have something I could provide. Let's say I had a talent for punting the football. I wasn't going to go and do it if I sucked. I didn't think I sucked at it. I thought I was a solid punter. So I said, I think I could provide something, and Syracuse ended up being a really good spot. There was some connections here that I was able to create, and they thankfully were in a position where they had a spot for me to play. And from there,
Right.
it's trying to become the best player. I felt like they were doing a service for me for allowing me on the team, and I'm going to try and do the same thing and deliver a good product for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a blessing for them to have you on the team.
Well, yeah. As long as I've been the holder the past couple of years. So as long as I do that well, and, you know, punting the ball, if it goes high and far, it's all I want to be. And in a specialist role. So specialist being snapper, kicker, punter. Objective is that people don't notice you. If you're doing a good job, you're not talked about. Nobody cares. But if you suck, that's when people write articles and the coaches say, you know what, maybe you're not in a good spot right now.
Yeah. That sounds like a very selfless position though, in
Yeah,
a way.
it does become a little bit like that. A bit.
Yeah.
There's, you know, there's some spots where it is, but other spots where it isn't.
Yeah. I remember seeing a video of you holding like a field goal, like for, you know, one of the kicks, and you celebrated with the kicker, the field goal kicker at the end. I forget the last name. It's a long last name.
Andre
What's his name?
Schmidt.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
And
Or Sterling
then but
Hoffrichter.
it was Hofrichter. That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I wasn't gonna try to pronounce it before you pronounced it.
Yeah.
And I saw you celebrate with them. So it's cool to see, like, you know, like the true value of a team. Like, and even in football, right? Like you see like Brady, you know, gets a bunch of spotlight, or certain players, but they're like you're holding the ball. Like that's equally as important. And but you guys still celebrate together. So maybe to the outside, yeah, like publication wise, you don't get as much credit, but everyone on that team is like, Nolan did his job, and like, we're proud of it, you know?
As a football team, the specialists are usually kind of just do our own thing, but we're focused on the goal. We have a much smaller group than other positions, and we set that same expectation for ourselves to perform at the highest level. No different than any other position. We're only out there for 8 plays a game, whatever it may be. But there's that same expectation to say we better perform at the highest level, or, you know, we could be putting the team in a really tough spot.
Yeah. So you come in with that pressure
Hmm.
of
Yeah, we
like,
we set the I think that we set the expectation really high here. If we've had a kicker who was first team All American 2 years ago, and then last year Sterling Hoff Richter, the guy who you're talking about, he was excellent, and he is now a member of the Atlanta Falcons.
yeah,
And because of what he did in this smaller group, all of a sudden you get to play in the NFL. And how nice is it to play in the NFL to kick a football?
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. That's an amazing, story. And they coming out of Syracuse too,
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
it's
and how,
become Syracuse. Syracuse has become a bit of special teams university. There's been a good run here. There's been a really good run. It helps
yeah,
to kick in the Carrier Dome, but it's been a good run.
yeah. How do you deal with like the expectation? You said you set the expectation very high, and even coming from the 1 year like at prep school, in Maine, and coming from Bridgeton, like what was it like entering that environment, trying to walk on? Like I know it could be very competitive. Like how did you approach that?
I was not a great punter at the time. I think I set the expectation for myself of trying to learn on the fly, and I don't
Hmm.
think that it takes a long time to realize what your ability is and how much you can grow at the time. I think I was really just happy to be on the team when I first got here. And then
Yeah,
as you start to grow, you say, I have an ability to play at a high level. I have an ability to make a true impact on this team. And it does come with time. Some guys have it. Some guys come in and they can make an impact right away. But for me, I probably developed it maybe a little bit slower because I'd only played a year of football prior to coming here, and they use that term raw, right? A raw athlete, whatever it may be. An athlete wouldn't
yeah,
describe me as a kicker, right? But the the expectation is when you're here, you should play. Nobody joins a Power Five school, an ACC school, to say, "Hey, I played on the team." Everybody wants to play, and that's what my objective is, to say, let me find a way to get on the field.
yeah, yeah. So you're like, you want that opportunity. You always want to progress. And even when you got in, maybe you were like happy to be on the team, but now it seems like you're like, I want to get better, get more opportunities, and like be able to do that. How do you like when you compete for spots, right? Like I don't, you're a punter. Sure, you had the kicker who, I can't the last name.
Hoff Richter. Yep.
Hofrichter, there we go.
Yep.
Hofrichter, he, went to the Falcons, whatever. And then now, you're there and maybe you're competing for a spot. And how do you deal with that specifically too? Of like, now that, maybe at the beginning, be on the team. And as you progress, you're like, okay, I want to compete, I want more opportunities. But you also support your teammates, like you want them to be successful too. How do you deal with that, like in practices and stuff like that, competition?
The best teams have the most competitiveness in practice. So when that Michael Jordan piece came out recently on ESPN, which happily saved everybody with their sports fix for a couple weeks, and they were talking about how the practices were more difficult than the games often. And that's what you want, I think, for the best team. So Sterling is an excellent punter. Excellent. He's you're one of two punters drafted, which means you are the pinnacle of that niche, right? And for
Yeah.
me, it was the ability to learn from him, but I still want to compete. And
Hmm.
that makes me a much better player and a much better teammate if I can compete with him and learn from him and hopefully teach him maybe a thing or two that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And so it in a way it sounds like it becomes a lot about the contribution too, like of like if I can compete at the level or kind of bring up the level of whoever I'm competing with by being competitive in that environment, like you'll both improve that much
Totally.
more.
Totally. It's for every position, for every coach. It's if there's that competitiveness and practice for guys to fight for a position to play, you're going to have a good team, right? You look at the most successful teams, like, you look at the Patriots, and people say that the practices are incredibly difficult in those documentaries that they have of preparation for a Super Bowl. They're doing, what looks to be much more difficult than something they do in a game, running as much as they possibly could, and it's going to benefit them. And if the teammates have that same expectation to say, I want to make you better, you make me better, you're gonna because it is about winning games. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot, like it's like the most successful teams are the ones that have that competition
or
within
or
them.
in or in stand up, right? You
Yeah.
have buddies that do it, and you want to say I'm better than them, right? You want to say, hey,
Yeah.
I I can get a better crowd reaction, but they're gonna make you better. You're gonna learn stuff from them, and they're gonna learn stuff from you to say,
Yeah.
why can't we both be great?
Yeah. Yeah, you're both bringing each other up. That's really, again, that sounds very selfless. Like you're like it's not like you're like I'm like, "Oh, like do you want to compete for the spot?" And you're like, "I want to bring everyone, I want to bring us all up together, you know?"
Yeah, yeah, and it's gonna make you better personally. I mean, there's that selfishness of I'm gonna get better from this as well. And you should want to improve the most. You shouldn't want it to be, oh, I'm gonna help out this guy. You should have that fight in you, that dog in you to say, I'm gonna be the best comedian out there.
Right, right. And yeah, with comedy, you're right. It definitely happens. There's a lot of like competition in it, and healthy competition. We support each other, and that's how it kind of has to be. It's in art in a way with comedy. It's you can create your own lane. So I truly believe, like especially in something like comedy, because it's like, or music, any of those fields. Like I think you can literally create great comedic content and music, and it won't take away from any. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Hmm.
everyone can create their own lane, but you're right. Like the competition of like seeing someone hustling every night, doing stand up all the time, or even football, like practicing a lot, it pushes you in that way. Um, and one thing I can relate to there is like, even in like tennis, like high school and tennis, like, there was a player who came up my junior year of high school, and he competed with, like for the one spot, like I was able to retain my spot, but every day at practice, we were just battling and it was hard. And I didn't have that the first 2 years, but I got a lot better.
That's
You
what you
know,
want. That's what you want. And for you going to stand up, so if you have, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a couple people that are going to go up a night. And if one person is better than the other, let's say somebody gets some more laughs than you're probably pissed. You're probably pissed leaving there, and you want to you want to get better. You don't want to be the guy
yeah,
to say, hey, I'm walking away and saying I wasn't the best guy there. That sucks. That doesn't feel
yeah,
good.
No, not at all. Not at all. I've never felt that before, though. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Do you ever, that reminds me, do you ever get this feeling though? So say you see like an NFL kicker or something, and sometimes this happens for me with comedy. It's like you see someone really good and you're like, they're great, but you're like, I could do that. Like, I think you have to have that a little bit, right?
There's things that they do that you feel like you can compete with, but so the objective in kicking is the consistency of it. And
Hmm.
same thing with stand up, right? Anything. If you're
Yeah.
consistent at it, you're going to be really really good. And for me, there's times where I say, in kicking, I think I can do that, or I've done that before. But those guys do it every single time that they're out there. And
Hmm.
yeah, there's probably things that I say, hey, every guy mishits a ball every once in a while, right? You'll be watching a game and be like, that wasn't that good. I've done that before, but then you're like, you know what? I was only 1 out of 20 that he did that. Whereas, in stand up, let's say somebody has a set that's not great, you're gonna be like, hey,
Yeah.
I wasn't that good. You probably feel that way too, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll see sets, and it can vary night to night, audience to audience. So you definitely see like, oh, like they're human. People are human. Like you won't have a great set all the time. Um, and then, but for me, like that inspires me. Like in a way, like if I see like someone at a high level, not that I want to see people fail. Like that's not. Let's clear that up first. But if you see someone who's really good at something mess up occasionally, like then you're like, okay, they're human, and if they're human, then I can get there, like that's my biggest mindset with it, like keeping that hope alive of like you see someone who's good at whatever you want to do, right? And in my opinion, I believe that like you kind of have to have something, like some part inside of you, or a lot of you, like that believes that you can be there. You know what I mean?
So this is a little off topic and it's not totally connected, but when you're out there and you see other people do well, is there more nerves that set in for you? Are you nervous when you go up there? When is there a time that
uh
you feel totally comfortable with what you're doing?
no, not at all. When you're doing stand up, you're never comfortable. Like I don't feel, you feel good like in the moment if it's going well, but you're never completely comfortable, because the whole funny part of it is like people, you don't know what's going to happen. Uh and your set and you know what you're going to say, and if you were vibing with the audience, like it'll feel good, and like the set will go well, but you love that part. But even in that, like it's not you're completely comfortable. It's like you still have to be on edge a little bit. What if someone in the audience says something? Then it's like, okay, you have to be ready and alert. So you can definitely be more uncomfortable if people aren't laughing, but learning to live in that too is also another skill, because it's like when people aren't laughing, like I've had sets where people won't laugh for 4 minutes, and the last minute I had 5 minutes to go up, then the last minute people will laugh hard. I got them at the end. Like it's not over.
Yeah, because when you do the little time I've had speaking in front of an audience is the extent of a public speaking class in high school or college, and you get up there and
Yeah.
there's a sweatiness that comes in. You're hot, right? You got to take your jacket off, and you think people probably going to think I'm terrible at this. How do I? How am I going to get through this? And then at the end, you're not looking for laughs. Thankfully, you're probably looking for more engagement from the people to say, they're not looking down and doodling in their notebook or something like that. But
Yeah.
you can walk away and say, yeah, that was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Maybe your temperature and your blood pressure starts to level out a little bit. And whereas when you go on there, you say, I'm super nervous. And do you ever feel like some days it's better than others?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's some days where it's better than others, for
Is there
sure.
more
A lot of,
preparation in that?
yeah. I think if you perform every night, like if you do hit, there's a thing called open mic. So open mics are like you basically try out new material. If you're doing those pretty regularly every day or every night, at least, you know, the good ones, people who are really good, they'll do get up 2 to 3 times at least a night. But even if you do 1 to 2 a night and you're consistent, you'll get better, you know, and you'll be good, you'll be decent. And that's how you kind of calm those nerves, right? Like you're saying, like when I was performing every night in New York, then if I had a big show and there are a lot of people, when I started doing stand-up, I would be deathly afraid of that. And I still am, like, because it's like a lot of pressure, but again, it's rising to it. And the only way you can rise to it is through lots of preparation. So yeah, some nights are better than others, but if you're doing it every night and you're starting to get, you know, into a rhythm and you know your timing and the jokes are working, and it's like muscle memory, you know, like you're saying these jokes and you can always improve them, but you are attuned to, and you're recording your sets. So you're attuned to whatever's getting the laugh consistently, and you keep doing that. Whatever's not, you stop.
It's not a fixed process. It's more of creating it as you go. Is that fair?
Yeah. It's not like you can't like practice in a certain way. You get up on the mic. That's the fixed part. You got to get up on the mic and you got to say whatever you wrote. And you have to react to people. And that's like the fixed part of getting up. Within that, it's random because you don't know what you're going to do that will get the laugh. Like it could be my facial expression. Like sometimes it is my facial expression or the way I say something, or like if I'm like, so a lot of the times I play like very naive. Like I'll say something as if like I just don't know what's going on. And that'll get a laugh because it's like, oh, this person, you know, he sounds, you know, but you know, I'm doing it on purpose. So it's like, but that's unique to each individual, you know, like it's not like who's like in football or in sports. It's like, you know, who can hit the baseball the farthest or like who can hit the ball the best. Like it's pretty objective.
Very
in
objective.
A way.
I agree.
With stand-up, it's like very, it's objective in a way that you have to put in the work to get funny, but subjective in a way that the things that you do in between to get laughs are unique to each individual because each person has their own style.
You can, in kicking, it's, you know, for a kicker, ball goes in, ball doesn't go in, or as a punter, distance, hang time, direction. It's very easy to judge how good it was. Whereas for you to say, I'm relying on, you know, however many people are in the crowd to say, can I make them laugh? You don't know who's showing up that night.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you don't know who's showing up, and that's the variety of it. Like you don't know who's gonna come in to the show and stuff. And wait, Nolan, can you hear me? Oh, we might have lost connection. Hold on. Okay, it's back.
There we go. We're all right.
Okay, we're back. Okay, let's keep on. I'll cut. Don't worry, I can cut this part.
Same thing happens to me.
Yeah, it's wait, what were we saying? The variety within it, and you talked about punting.
And then in terms of the audience that shows up that night.
Oh, the audience. Yeah. The audience, they vary. Audiences vary night to night. So, you know, that's tough sometimes to deal with. Then you have to react in the moment again. Like, that's why I really think stand-up's exactly like a sporting event as I get older and I do it more, like, and as I've done it, like, it's completely like a sporting event because you can prepare as an athlete for a game, as a team. If you're in an individual sport, you can prepare. That's great, but you have to deliver in the moment. So, you know, there's a lot of factors, you know, we say it's objective, making kick, but there's a lot of factors once you start playing a game that, you know, crowd, like, you know, emotions, like mental, all of these things will play with you. And you don't know how certain players are going to react. Or like, even if you're punting, you don't know if someone will break through and then maybe try and block it. And then you have to adjust a little bit, you know? And in a game, those are the possibilities. So when you do stand up, it's like same thing every time, never a guarantee. Like you can never go up whether it's an open mic, a show, anything, you can't go up and just say, I'm 100%, this is going to work. You have to go in with the thinking like, I'm going to have to make this work. Like you have to have that.
It's as much practice as you prepare for, and you're required to come up with new material all the time. For me, it's the same thing. It's the same leg swing, it's the same drop. You got to say, I got new stuff every night. That's that anxiety that comes. That would bring me a lot of anxiety there.
Yeah, that's why I started the pod. No, I'm kidding. Like other people must have anxiety too, right? But it's interesting you say that. I would say, so the way it works is in New York, when you're starting out and you're trying to get sets up at professional comedy clubs, you're trying to hone 5 minutes. So you're trying to get a good 5. So in a weird way, it can be different like at the beginning because you're just trying to hone your 5 minutes. So a lot of the times what I do is the majority of what I say most nights is stuff that's worked over 4 or 5 years because it's so hard to find that. And then you mix new stuff within that. So like you get on stage, you have your funny stuff, you can polish that, make it a little bit better. And then you'll throw a new premise in there. And sometimes at open mics, you can do all new stuff. But generally the nice thing with stand-up is like because you face different audiences, you don't have to switch.
Mm-hmm. So there's this idea that oftentimes actors, when they're off the camera, they're, a little bit different people. They're not, and I don't know if this is true, but with comedians, is there a sense that when they're not on the mic, are some people just not funny, but when they get a mic in their hand, all of a sudden they're hilarious?
Yeah, 100%. I've seen that. I see that sometimes, like with some people, like
They're
there's
just
some
cut
people
and
you'll
dry
talk.
as can be when they're boring, they got nothing to them, and then all of a sudden you put a mic in their hand and they got people cracking up.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. There's definitely people like that. I think comedy even it centers around a social awkwardness, right? Like
Yeah.
the reason like you don't get it, that could happen rarely, but you don't get into comedy because everything went smoothly in your life. Like something like very wrong happened at some point. You're like, I'm gonna put myself through this, to be able to share. But no, in all seriousness, like that's what it is. You go through stuff, but it can stem from a social awkwardness. Like a lot of the times, like you can't connect with people in everyday conversation. So stand up, and for some comedians that I've seen, I could, from what I've observed, like this is my opinion again, but it's like I think that stand up's like an outlet to connect with people, maybe because you struggle in regular everyday interactions. I'm lucky. I think I do well in conversation. You can judge me right now, but I think I like talking to people, but I hope I have both. Maybe maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm one of the guys. All right. You know what? Fine. You figured me out. I'm the guy. All right. I'm the guy who struggles talking to people, and that's why I couldn't do it. So yeah, I definitely think it stems from that. And connect, at the beginning, a mix of that and wanting to say stuff, and like just not being, you might, and also making observations that maybe like aren't super, like you see things a little differently, or like you like, when you watch TV, when people are watching TV, it's like you're watching TV, but you're thinking about like something else. I don't know. You're like, oh, the TV was just off. Now it's on. You're just having weird thoughts. And
Yep.
you're like, I have to get these weird thoughts out of my brain and see if they're funny.
Because there's people that you'll listen to and you'll be like, how the hell did they come up with that stuff to make me laugh that hard? And you'll think like, did that actually happen to them? Or are they just how do you, where's their imagination to tell this story in a New York City subway? Where does that come from? Or is this factual information?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's embellished. Sometimes, it's it can definitely be, because for me, even some of my jokes, like I add to it and through my imagination. I'd say it always stems from reality generally. Like there's something, truth in there. And then as a artist or as a comedian, or that's a part of your comedic brain. You let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. If you're doing stand up every night and you're around comedians, you guys are constantly trying to think of funny things. So when you talk to people or when you go back up, on stage any night, again, with that comfortability, confidence, like if you're in front of an audience and every night you're talking to comedians, you're working on jokes, podcasts, whatever it is, and you're trying to make like funny lines or whatever, like you're going to be more ready to react in a comedic manner. And like, what thoughts and what train of thoughts to follow and what might make people laugh. You just have a better idea. So I would say like, it does happen to people, like a lot of the things, like even for me, it's, whatever you say on stage, but what we enjoy about it, or what I enjoy about it, is being able to add to that. Like, it's like, oh, like what else could happen if this is true, what else is true? Or like in this world that we create, it's hard to, it sounds abstract, but.
Well, no, because you think like you going through your mind and you're thinking, what awkward situations have I run to in my life? What situations was there a bad thing? That would make people laugh.
Yeah.
The things that were difficult in my life are the things that are going to make other people laugh.
Yeah. And that's a great point, because that's in general, like both, in that manner, like the things that were, awkward for you is what makes people laugh. So again, like that's what happens. Like you want to share, you don't want to, a lot of the times the things you don't want to share is what you have to share in order to be successful as a comedian, or like as someone who's, but in general too, like not just as a comedian. I think that's, I think it can relate better. And, like one time, I'll share one with you. I just thought of one. Like I was at work and I, was going to open the door, but I was saying bye to a girl, like at that time that I, was interested, I thought she was cute. And I was like, we grabbed lunch, and I was like saying bye, I waved. So my attention was there. I wasn't focusing on the door. So I push, I'm not looking at the door. I push, I feel like a man's like breast, and I'm like, I'm touching, I'm holding it. And I look over, it's like this guy's like chest. I'm touching a guy's chest. I thought he was the door. So I'm like holding it, and I'm staring straight at him. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, it's okay. Could you just take your hand off? And I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. And that's another thing with a lot of stuff like that happens to me. Like I have so many, and it'll happen today. Like in the next hour after we're done recording this, something will happen. I'll fall, like just something weird, just because I don't know if that's my fate, just to like have weird things happen to me. But like, and you want just so like, if I were to open the can of worms right now, we'd be talking for like 5 hours. And probably for you too.
All the awkwardness that happens.
Yeah. So that's a mix. That's a part of it too. I think what gets you into comedy, if like maybe you want to relate to people through the stand-up, and you also have a lot of these things that happen just in general. Like your life's just kind of, you see it as funny, and it kind of is funny in a way,
Yeah, just not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah. But to end this, I kind of want to do some fun situations that should be. Speaking of not taking yourself too seriously, let's do some fun scenarios. I think that's a smooth transition. So I said, which sport conditions do you prefer? So I thought of some, and so the first one, would you rather be the favorite or the underdog coming into a game?
I'd probably say the favorite, because it means you've done something good in the past. It means that you've been successful. as the underdog, it means, you probably have, maybe you've underperformed or you're not as good. You want to be looked at as being like, yeah, that guy's good. He should win.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Plus, I like the Patriots. I like dynasties. I think that you don't want to read about. Nobody reads books about people that were losers, right? If you're going to read a book about a loser, it's about a loser who overcame that and then ended up being a winner. They don't make movies about the maybe they do make some, but about the team that lost and then it just ends there, right? That underdog.
Yeah.
If it's about the people who have been successful, and you want to be recognized as that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely makes sense. I would say so say I'll give you this scenario. So say like, Patriots, right? Like 18-0. And that brings back bad memories. Let's not do that one. So let's do let's do a random team. All right, little league, minor league team. We're the playoffs. That brings back bad memories too. Come on. Major League Baseball. Yeah, we're in the major league MLB. All right. So the Red Sox, maybe you won a lot of games, right? In the postseason, or you won a lot of games in the regular season. Now you're doing well in the postseason. World Series, you win it. Or scenario one, you're on that team. Scenario two, you're on maybe the Yankees, whatever. I don't know. Yankees, and then you win not too many regular season games, and you start getting hot in the playoffs, and you win the World Series. Which team would you rather be on, aside from the bias of what team you like?
So you're on a team. The first one you win a ton of regular season, and then you win in the playoffs too. Yeah, give me that. Give me that. Give me that team.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's you want to win all the games possible. As much as cool it is to say, oh, they came in as the underdog and it makes for a cool story. What about that team that just rocked it the whole year? Just tattooing every team that they played, and then in the playoffs they just continue to do that. That's a team I want to be on.
Yeah. That is a fun team to be on. I would say I don't know. For me, I think I'd want to be on like the team that loses a little bit more and then wins at the end, just because like I think that feeling of like what I love, like the underdog story, just like the knocking off of like a top, and like that feeling you get of like how you felt when you beat us in the Mariners game.
But you would have, but I mean, you would have felt the same energy if you had won that game, I think.
I think we were really cocky, and I think if we won the game, we would have been like, yeah, we should have won that game. Like, so I think that also worked to our detriment. And but see that the elation, like the happiness that comes from like if you like didn't know you were going to, and then it happens, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe it, but I see what you're saying. I agree with you in the sense that yeah, like it'd probably be more fun to be on that team that won throughout, because you get to enjoy the whole.
Yeah, it's hard to say I'd want to lose some or have lost more games like that. Like that 2018 Red Sox team that just shattered all the records, right? They for regular season wins and rolled their way through the playoffs. And that's a team that but then you think about 2004. I don't know.
That's exactly it though.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one. Like 04 was the biggest, for me, it was like it was so much fun.
Yeah. It's got me thinking now that I'm thinking about David Ortiz in that playoff run.
Well, down 3-0 in that series in the ALCS.
Yeah.
Dude, my brain like was overloaded on dopamine when they won that game. I was telling my dad, and I'm like, they're gonna come back. I had this naive like just hope that like when we were down 0-3, I'm like they're gonna come back, and they came back, and because the year before, Aaron Boone hit a walk-off home run in Game 7, I think it was, at New York at Yankee Stadium, and I felt that hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw Tim like crying. You know, he liked it. Oh, it was so sad.
Yeah, but then that triumph. Yeah, that's a.
Just get back to me. You can text me later. Just let me know.
I'm still gonna take the team that wins a lot. I'm still gonna take that team.
Fair. I tried to. I put down a strong.
You got me going there for a second. There, you got me thinking about that 0-4 team.
Yeah, I respect that though. Okay, so now you're on the football field. This is a tough one, but would you prefer to play as a punter? I feel like I know the answer, but on a clear sunny day or in like winter, sleet, snow type?
Clear sunny all day.
I knew the answer as I said.
There's when you start thinking about way too much when it gets windy or it gets snowy, whatever it might be, your brain starts to really work too much, saying you start overthinking things, and it's a very technical position to be a punter. There's very little room for error, and when it's clear and sunny, all you're thinking about is foot on ball, and let's see where this goes.
Yeah, it takes out those factors, because I can imagine if it's like snowing and you're trying to punt, like you could your cleat could like anything could like you have to be wary of that.
Yeah, well, and it's not even that you maybe have to be. You start thinking about too much, and then you start thinking about the technicalities, or do I need to change something? Whereas the other situation is your mind is free, and you can go. Or in a comedy club, if you show up and you got some people that are
rain,
a tough
sleet.
crowd. Or rain or sleet too. You got a tough crowd showing up. You're gonna be thinking, what do I need to do to get it out of these people?
I see it all the time.
Yeah. You see somebody who's you look in the crowd, and you probably make prejudgment decisions, and you say, yeah, that guy looks like he might be a tough laugh right there.
Yeah. What I do sometimes is, because a lot of my jokes like are on like being, or like some of them revolve around like being Indian or having like Indian experiences. So like having Indian experience, that sounds so weird. Having experiences growing up in an Indian household, whatever. So they, I'll find some Indians in the audience. Like at one show, I saw them in the back, and I like, I was struggling when I started doing it, and I was like, shout out to like my Indian brothers back there, like randomly or something. And it got people to start laughing a little bit. And but yeah, that's like how you scope out. You like prepare for like if it's a bad audience. But I also think it would be super hilarious if it did rain and sleet while you were doing comedy. Yeah, listen, guys, I know the weather's bad, but jokes, right?
Yeah.
Why are we here? But quarantine comedies like that, or like what right now in the pandemic, people are doing it at parks and stuff. So totally could start like just pouring, and someone's like, "Why are you guys leaving? Like, is it the comedy or is it the weather?"
Yeah. You're in Central Park and you don't know.
Yeah. And so I'll end with this question because we're running out of time. But would you rather win a game having the lead or in a comeback? It's kind of relates to the other one, but just on a more in-game level.
The difficulty of holding a lead, there's that hockey analogy. The worst thing is a 2-goal lead, which is, to me, doesn't make sense, because why wouldn't you want to be winning by 2 goals instead of 1 goal? But
yeah,
I'd say you'd want to be leading. That it's kind of the same thing as that first question, to be leading and then go on to win, because you want to make sure that you're making the most plays throughout the game. That's where
Mm.
you're successful. It means if you're losing, it means that you weren't making as many plays early on.
Yeah. And you followed through on that philosophy in that minor league game with the Red Sox. You guys held the lead the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult
That
win.
makes sense. Oh man, I don't think, I'm not salty about it. I just want, I honestly started thinking about it when I knew we were gonna record. I was like, oh, the game.
It's the first thing that came to my mind.
But it's the first thing. Like,
Yeah.
Shiv struck him out in minors.
I'm gonna see you, 30 years down the road, passing by and wherever it may be, and I'm gonna think, oh, Shiv, Red Sox Mariners.
Red Sox. Cool. Well, that's pretty much all of it. I think I do want to ask. I saw on like the Syracuse website that has like information about you. I wanted to like confirm it with you. It said your favorite movie. It says Dino recommends. Dino's the coach, correct?
Yep.
And there's like a segment where it like recommends movies, like, or he recommends movies to you. He recommended Insomnia to you. It's a 2002 psychological thriller on the website. Have you seen it?
I think that was from a blogger, not team affiliated.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, that's of course.
Coach Favors makes a lot of he makes a lot of good movie recommendations, but I don't know if they broadcast it.
And then it said your favorite movie. This could have also been from a blog. That's why I thought this would be funny to confirm, because I had like skepticism. I'm like, what is this going on here? Like, this isn't normal. And then they said like your favorite one might be like Dumb and Dumber.
It wouldn't be my first choice for a movie. I would.
That's like what they have on they have something on the site that's like, oh, what
really?
would his favorite movie be?
On the Syracuse website?
So.
I don't know. No, I wouldn't select Dumb and Dumber as my favorite. A good Rhode Island classic, but not my go-to.
That's what they said. They're like, he'd probably like Dumb and Dumber because it's a Rhode Island classic.
Yeah. Those Farley brothers.
Like yeah. Cool. Well, I just needed clarity on that because, I was curious about what was going on there.
Yeah. It's they do less of the more of the height and weight and less of the the movie selections.
Imagine like an NFL draft where like it like prioritize like fun facts about the players.
They'll with the first pick in the NFL draft, favorite movie, The Godfather.
Favorite movie, The Godfather.
Yeah.
They throw that in there. He likes cutting his nails. Just like a random, just like thing that's like they're like.
Well,
what?
in Little League, in the Little League World Series, they do that. They'll put up their favorite movie, and I guess so it's associated with sports in some way.
Yeah. But it's a new way you can pitch that to the team. Just throw it like new way to do introductions. See if they
New podcast segment is what it will be.
Yeah. He likes eating peanut butter while he's sleeping. Like, it just said like the weirdest things. Like, oh man, I want to think of those for like days for a play. I'll try and think of one for just all the players on the Syracuse. I'll just try and come up with something.
And then send it in and say, I've got new material for you during this quarantine. There might not be games, but I've got some new material.
Exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think, for all our listeners, I hope, this was insightful. We'll learn about perseverance and Nolan's story. And, you can power through whatever the name of his podcast, you can power through, You can power through with Nolan Cooney. That's what you could do if by hearing the story and also listening to the podcast.
You can do both. You can go UnCoMfY CoNvO right over to power through, and then keep going back and forth.
Right. Yeah, before we end this, I want to see if you want to do any plugs.
No, I don't think I don't think I have any right now. There's, hope that we'll be back to normal soon, and that everybody can stay healthy right now. I don't think that, for me, sports are a huge part of my life, and I'm happy to be at Syracuse right now. It's been an awesome fit for me, and they've provided me with so much, and I'm excited to have another year to play football.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Well, I appreciate you for thinking of me as a guest here. I'm not going to bring you the comedic relief that other people are, but I think it's a little bit of a different scenario, and I think that it's a really cool topic to talk about, that perseverance anxiety that some people do face, and for so many different sectors of life, whatever it may be, it's going to be there, and it's really keeping that neutral ability to not get too high or too low.
Yeah, and I completely agree, and I think that also, like, from what you said, like, when you're down or when you're having going through tough times, like, being able to focus your mind on positive and having that mental strength to do that also, like, really can help you overcome that. Like, if you have a fear of persevering or continuing to go on, like, you can try and shift your focus towards like, maybe I'm down now, but it'll go up again. Like, I'll hit whatever I want to, like, do and reach my goals.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Shiv, I can't thank you enough.
All right. Yeah, no, thank you. And to all our listeners, stay tuned. We'll come out with another episode, soon. Just sit tight. If you're in the car listening, sit tight, keep your seatbelt on. If you're, like, walking, keep walking. I don't know. And all right, yeah, I'm going to end that because I don't know where I'm going with that. So I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening.